Hi guys, welcome to my new crime channel. I hope you are here to stay. I decided to move my crime content onto a separate channel and keep my original channel a bit more light-hearted lifestyle content. So hopefully you guys enjoy my new channel and you're on this journey with me to tell these stories, to tell the cases and the lives of these particular victims, and to look at deep dives into whatever it is that we choose to look into. So definitely stick around, and hopefully you can also give me some recommendations down below as to what you'd like to see in terms of cases on this particular channel. For today's video, we will be discussing the solved case of Anthony Walker. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to start by saying, I mean to cause no offence to the Walker family or those that have been impacted by this case. Everything that I've discussed has been cited from internet sources, and I will also be referencing them down below in my description box. I'd also like to state that although this may appear to be for entertainment purposes, the cases that I discuss are detailing the real life cases of individuals and the impact that this has had on their families as well. If we can, I want these videos to not only bring awareness to these cases and to these individuals that have had these traumatic experiences happen to them, but if we can, help in bringing justice to those that have been impacted. Now, I decided to cover Anthony's case for one of my first cases because I recently came across Anthony's drama that was told by the BBC. It's a kind of like a reimagined drama that was portrayed on the BBC recently. And I thought that this would be a very fitting case to discuss, especially as we are going through hard times recently. This has been brought to the forefront, the issue of racism. Now, Anthony's case is definitely one that highlights this problem and highlights this issue, and unfortunately this is not something that was a one-off, and it's still happening today. The drama on BBC is called Anthony, and if you want to watch it, I believe you can find it on the BBC iPlayer. But it basically explores the life that Anthony could have lived if he was allowed to do so. It's a 90-minute drama exploring his life as becoming a lawyer, marrying the love of his life, and having a baby daughter. It was written by Hillsborough's Jimmy McGovern, and it was based on conversations that he actually had with Anthony Walker's mother, G. Walker. And like I said, the film imagines what life could have been like for Anthony through his mother's eyes, and I just think it was a beautiful portrayal. And it kind of starts off with him at the age of 26, I believe, or 27, and it works through the different stages of his life until the end of the film, obviously, where we see actually what happened to Anthony and why he could never live the life that he deserved to live. So because of that, I really wanted to put out there Anthony's story and to make sure that people still remember Anthony and remember the reason why he was murdered, and that this is something we can fight against, because this is something that some of us have to fight against on a daily basis. So let's now get into Anthony's story. Anthony Delano Walker was born on the 21st of February 1987, which actually makes him just a couple of months older than I am, and so he would have been 33 if he was still alive today. He was born into a Jamaican family, and he was one of 6 children. The Walker family were among the first black family to actually move into the area of Merseyside, Highton, I believe it's called, in Merseyside in Liverpool. And because of this, they did actually experience quite a lot of racist abuse. And I know that Anthony and his siblings did experience this abuse in their primary and secondary school lives. Anthony attended Knowlesey Hay High School, and he was 18 years old and in his second year of A-levels when he was murdered. Anthony grew up in a Christian household, and he also was a devoted Christian himself, and he really held on to his faith, and he was definitely one for justice, and that was part of his passion in life. I believe he wanted to become a lawyer, so go on to study law after his A-levels, which makes it all the more important that his case truly got the justice that it deserved. Anthony, like many, he loved sports, and he had a particular fondness for basketball as well, which was honoured later on as in remembrance of him. So let's take a look at what actually happened to Anthony the night he was murdered. So it was the summer of 2005. Actually, it was July 29th to be exact. Anthony and his girlfriend, Louise Thompson, were babysitting for his 2-year-old nephew at his family home in Highton. Now, I'm going to specify here Anthony and Louise's race. Anthony was a black male and his girlfriend Louise was a white female. Now, this is not something I would normally address or feel like I needed to bring up in conversation in my videos. However, I feel that this is definitely something that is quite important to tell because of what he and his girlfriend experienced later on. So they were in an interracial relationship and this was quite clear. So when it was around 11 p.m, Louise decided that it was time for her to go home, and so Anthony and his cousin Marcus Binney decided that they would, like gentlemen, walk Louise to the bus stop, to the local bus stop. This particular bus stop that was near Anthony's house was located by the Highton Park pub. And as they got to the bus stop, they were waiting for the bus and they were, having a laugh, joking around like teens would do. And all of a sudden they were harassed and abused by who we now know to be 17-year-old Michael Barton. Barton was actually standing outside of the pub and he was wearing a black hoodie or a dark hoodie, and he was also wearing a mask or a scarf covering half his face. And he kept yelling abuse at the group of teens at the bus stop. In fact, he was telling the two black boys, walk, N, walk. And I'm sure you know what the N was in that particular sentence that I decided not to include. But that's what he was telling them to do. And he was also hurling abuse at Louise Thompson for being a white girl with 2 black men. Anthony, being the calm person that he was, decided that, it's best that they decide to go somewhere else, avoid the confrontation and move on. So Anthony did just that with his girlfriend and his cousin, and they decided to go and walk to the next bus stop, which was a bit further down. And that's what they did. They left that particular bus stop by Highton Park pub and they decided that they would walk to the next bus stop. To get to the next bus stop, the group believed that it would be best for them to cut through the park, and so that's what they also did. They cut through the McGoldrick Park. Now, whilst the teens were walking to the bus stop and on their way to the park, Michael Barton had approached his friend Paul Taylor, and he had told Paul Taylor that he had lost his face during a row. With that information, the pair decided that they will now go and find these teens that Barton had apparently lost his face to and continue this confrontation. So the pair got into a car and they went on a hunt to find the teens. They drove to the park entrance because they realised that's where the teens were heading, and they immediately went into the park entrance and hid behind some bushes, waiting for the teens to enter the park. As the teens entered the park, the pair ambushed the 3 teens, Anthony, his girlfriend Louise, and Marcus, Anthony's cousin. Fortunately for Louise and Marcus, they were able to escape the ambush. However, Anthony was trapped and was unable to do so. As Anthony tried to fight back to escape his attackers, Paul Taylor used a mountaineering or ice axe to hit Anthony in the head so hard that the adze part of the axe was embedded 6 centimeters deep into Anthony's skull. To add to the callous nature of the attack, Paul Taylor and Michael Barton decided that they would leave their victim lying unconsciously on the ground, which, let's be honest, is not surprising at all. But not before Michael Barton desperately tried to remove the axe from Anthony's skull. But of course, he couldn't do so. It was 6 centimeters deep. He was not going to be able to remove that. And with their failed attempt to remove the axe, they both escape, with Barton escaping with Anthony's blood literally on his hands. And can I also point out that surgeons also had a very difficult time trying to remove the axe from Anthony's skull. So Barton definitely was not going to be able to do so. Marcus returned not too long after to help Anthony. However, by the time he had got there, Anthony had lost a lot of blood and basically there wasn't really much anybody could do for Anthony to help him. He was eventually rushed to Whiston Hospital and then transferred to Walton Neurological Centre, which kind of indicates how serious his injury really was. Anthony Walker was officially pronounced dead at 5:25 a.m. on July 30th, 2005, with his family at his bedside. Anthony's attack was so brutal that it is believed that he was brain dead within seconds of the axe striking his skull. This particular case garnered a lot of attention. The police immediately branded Anthony's murder as a racially motivated murder. Essentially, they said it was definitely a racist attack. The Merseyside police acted quite quickly in this case and would later state that they didn't believe that Michael Barton and Paul Taylor had actually intended to go and murder that night. So they didn't believe it was a premeditated attack, basically, and that they actually had planned on burgling some safes in some hotels, but they got distracted when they saw the group of teenagers at the bus stop. Now, Michael Barton and Paul Taylor were well known in the community, and people knew the kind of people they were. They weren't good people at all. And so their names kept coming up to the police as suspects. And because of this, police took the unusual steps to basically name them as the official suspect. Now, one thing I can actually say is that unlike some of the cases that I've researched and looked at in the past, the police in this case really did take action, and they took action quite quickly, and they were determined to bring justice to Anthony. Unlike, for example, the Met Police in the Stephen Lawrence case. And if you aren't aware of the Stephen Lawrence case, then if you let me know, I might be able to cover that in the future for you as well. Within 7 hours of the murder of Anthony Walker, the pair had managed to drive to Dover, which is over 300 miles away, and then they managed to catch a 6 a.m. ferry, which would then take them to Calais, and then from Calais they were able to drive to Amsterdam. Now, despite their understandable grief during this time, the Walker family decided that they needed to act fast and they needed to make sure that Anthony's killers were caught. And so they decided to take part in a press conference on the 31st of July, which was just one day after Anthony had passed away. Anthony Walker's 20-year-old sister at the time, Dominique, shook with anger as she described her younger brother as a loyal, reliable, loving and fun brother. His parents, Steve and G. Walker, sisters Donna, 29, Stephanie, 26, Angela, 16, and brother Daniel, who was just 14 at the time, they all wept as Dominique spoke. Now, quite rightly so, the media coverage for this was very big, and it was branded a racist attack in the media as well, so not just by the police. Anthony's murder, quite rightly, made front page news. Hundreds of people in the community paid tribute to Anthony at the entrance of the park where he was murdered, and thousands of people gathered for an anti-racism vigil in his name. 400 people also attended a candlelit walk. It wasn't just the fact that this was a racist murder that stirred people. I mean, obviously, this would stir people to no ends, right? But it was the fact that this sounded eerily similar to what had happened to Stephen Lawrence those years back. But it was also the fact that these were not just any people that killed Anthony. In fact, those that killed Anthony were related to a well-known Premier League footballer at the time called Joey Barton. You see, Michael Barton was the brother of Joey Barton, Manchester City player Joey Barton. And Paul Taylor wasn't just Michael Barton's friend. Paul Taylor was also Joey Barton's cousin as well. And so this case got the eyes that it needed to get because of such a prominent relation to the case. And so not only did the Walker family make their own plea and appeal, so did the footballer Joey Barton at the time. By Tuesday the 1st of August, Joey Barton had made an appeal condemning what had happened to Anthony Walker and begging and pleading for his brother and Paul Taylor, his cousin, to make sure that they hand themselves in to the police. During this appeal, it was quite clear that Joey Barton really wanted to distance himself from his brother and his cousin, and he made it quite clear that they weren't as close as people may have thought they were. And this was because they hadn't actually been raised in the same household, but they did share the same parents. Joey Barton said in his appeal, "My side of the Barton family is sickened by his death. Although I was not brought up with Michael, I urge him to come forward. You must do this for the Walker family so they can mourn Anthony and because you know it is the right thing to do." It later emerged in court that Joey Barton had already spoken to his brother on a mobile phone, where his brother had actually contacted him asking him to give him £1,000, and he actually told him what he did. But Joey Barton had basically refused to give him this money and had told his brother that he needed to hand himself in to the police. And obviously, Joey Barton, being in the public eye, being a Premier League footballer, he knew that this kind of scandal would not be very good for his career. And so he contacted his agent and Manchester City press office, and he basically explained the situation and his links to the case. And that particular evening, Joey Barton had appealed. Thousands of people gathered at St George's Hall in Liverpool city centre for an anti-racism vigil. Anthony's mother, G. Walker, spoke publicly for the first time at this anti-racism vigil, wearing sunglasses to shield her swollen eyes from the public as she addressed the crowd. By Wednesday, 3rd of August, it was rumoured that Michael Barton and Paul Taylor had been found and arrested in Amsterdam. However, the police had strenuously denied that this was true, but the media, being, well, the media, they decided to gather at Liverpool John Lennon Airport, awaiting the arrival of this EasyJet flight that they believed the two would be on. And so they did. They gathered outside John Lennon Airport in Liverpool, and they waited for the flight, and the flight did arrive at 6:20 p.m. and coming off of the flight were Michael Barton and Paul Taylor handcuffed, and they were trying to shield their faces with their tops and their hats, and they were being led off the plane. As soon as they hit the UK soil, the pair were arrested by Merseyside police. The police later admitted that they did have to deny the arrest because they basically wanted the pair to come back voluntarily on their own terms, and they also wanted to avoid a whole extradition procedure if anything was to go wrong, and they weren't able to do so. By Friday, 5th of August, Michael Barton and Paul Taylor had been charged with the murder of Anthony Walker. And by 10 a.m. that same day, they had arrived at Knowsley Magistrates Court in Huyton, and they were remanded in custody. Guys, I just want to have a little intermission, because if you are hearing rustling in the background, it's because I am home alone looking after this little pup here. Her name is Luna, and she is the cause of all the noise in the background. So we apologise. Luna, can we get on with the case now? Okay, she wants to get down. All right. Okay. So bye-bye. Bye-bye. I apologise for the background noise, guys. She is on one right now, so anyway, let's get back to the case. And by 10 a.m, the pair had arrived at Knowsley Magistrates Court in Huyton, and they were remanded in custody. And that night, as they were both locked up in their cells, more than 4,000 people showed their support for the Walker family in a candlelit walk to McGoldrick Park. As the pair awaited trial and the police investigation continued, the Walker family ensured that Anthony's death hadn't been in vain. 2 weeks after his death, they actually launched a basketball tournament that was held in his memory, and the prize was the Anthony Walker Trophy. And on this trophy were inscribed some of the most beautiful words that I think I've seen in a long time. And it basically said, "Don't feel ashamed of your race. Feel guilty only if you stand by and do nothing to unite and bring change to the human race." And I think that's such an important message to get across, that none of us should feel ashamed of our race, but we should definitely be working to unite. And Mrs. Walker told the young basketball players to not forget what was inscribed on the trophy, and if they hadn't seen it yet, then they need to go and read it. And let this be their strength. Live and let your light shine for my son, Anthony. I think, again, that was such a beautiful message to send to these young people as well. Like, there's still hope out there. Now, Paul Taylor had actually confessed to his part in the killing of Anthony Walker quite early on. However, Barton had actually denied his role in Anthony's murder. The pair, however, were both found guilty of murdering Anthony Walker, and were both sentenced to prison, with Taylor receiving 23 years and 8 months in prison, whilst Michael Barton received 17 years and 8 months in prison for initiating the confrontation and supplying the weapon. The judge actually described Michael Barton as a racist thug, and Lord Justice Leveson said that the cousins had perpetrated a terrifying ambush and a racist attack of a type poisonous to any civilized society. He continued to say that you took from Anthony Walker his most precious possession, that is to say, his life, and all it held for him. He was a young man of enormous promise, lost in a moment. You have damaged forever the lives of those who loved him. Forever you have destroyed your own lives and affected the lives of all who are dear to you. In 2016, Barton's sentence was actually reduced. Now, I don't know what you guys think about this, so you have to let me know in the comments below as to what you think about what I'm going to tell you next. I kind of have my own thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear yours. In 2016, Michael Barton's sentence was actually reduced by a year after the judge, Mr. Justice Mitting, said that he had made exceptional progress in prison. And he added that jail had led to a remarkable transformation in his outlook and conduct for Barton. Now, I think he was doing charity work in prison, which kind of helped him build his his profile or his profile. I can't remember what they do in prison now, but to build that, and I think that contributed to this. But at the end of the day, he was involved in the murder of a person, and he was involved in a racist attack and racist murder of an individual. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Michael Barton, who's now, I believe, 31 or so, actually recently wrote a letter to Anthony Walker's mother apologizing for his actions. You take from that what you want, whether you think he was genuine or he's still maybe just doing this because actually what is happening now is that he's preparing for his parole hearing in October of this year. This would just be 15 years after he murdered 18-year-old Anthony Walker because he didn't like the colour of his skin. I mean, Michael Barton's actually asking to be moved to an open prison, so he's more likely to be released when his minimum 16-year term is up. Now, if you don't know, when I was doing my teacher training, part of my training was to work in a prison, and I worked in the education section of a prison, and so I did work in the open prison, and I think I was in the category B prison as well. I think the open prison was category D, and then you had the holding prison, I think it was, which was category C. Category B was the lifers, I believe, and then category A was like really serious, we weren't allowed in there basically. I'm trying to remember all of this stuff. This was years ago I went there. But yeah, I did work in the category B prison and the category D prison. And for me, category D did surprise me a bit because the prisoners, I believe they had their own key to their cell and they were able to go out and work. You couldn't really escape a category D prison officially. It was called absconding. I mean, I guess if they did abscond and they were found, then they would just go back into the other categories, a higher category prison. But it was if they say it's an open prison and you could have visitors coming in. So it's definitely a more relaxed vibe. And for me, thinking about it, if he's asking to be put into a category D prison, which is this open prison, then I don't know how I feel about that. Racist murderer in an open prison. I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. So the information I'm going to discuss now, I actually found on the crime and investigation website, and I thought it was really interesting to really look at the impact and the aftermath of Anthony's case, because I mean, we can focus on his murderers, but actually I want to focus more on Anthony and what his case has meant for what's happening now and how it's contributed to understanding what's happening now. You can also find this information on the merseysideintrust.org website, which I'll also have linked down below. Now, Anthony's murder was more than two teenagers committing murder. It actually had to really force the white community in Liverpool, in this particular case in Highton, Merseyside, to really open their eyes as to what is happening in their community and to actually put out there to them that racism truly does exist within it. You know, even till this day, people still believe that, I guess, with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, etc., people still come out with the rhetoric that racism isn't happening, or it's not that bad in the UK, or they don't really see what the issue is because they don't see it, it doesn't happen kind of rhetoric. And I feel like Anthony's case definitely awakened people to the fact that yes, it does happen, and it has very serious consequences when people hate as much as they do. And the fact that just hours after Barton was found guilty of murdering Anthony Walker, racist graffiti sprung up at the scene of Anthony Walker's death. Like, how disgusting is that? And the police had to remove that graffiti, and they refused to say what had been written, but we can only imagine what was written there. Of course, the community openly grieved, and the majority of people were really, really touched and hurt by what had happened to Anthony, black or white or whoever, you know. However, bulletin boards started emerging with messages from white supremacists who were comparing the death and the media coverage of Anthony Walker's case to that of Richard Whelan, a white man. And in fact, campaigners at the time in that particular area had already warned of a rise in racial hate crimes, and with the number of racially motivated attacks in that particular borough in which Anthony Walker lived in the first half of 2005 alone was almost equal to that of the whole of 2004. So can you imagine the area in which Anthony Walker and his family were living in at the time? It was not an area that was accepting at the time, and I don't know if it is still to this day. In the aftermath of Anthony's death in 2006, his mother, G. Walker, set up the Anthony Walker Foundation. And this works to tackle racism, hate crime, and discrimination by providing educational opportunities, victim support services, and by promoting equity and inclusion for all. There were also Sigma units, which basically the Merseyside police established, and it was basically a commitment to investigating any incident that may be classified as a hate crime. And these Sigma units, so hate crime investigation units, they are in each of Merseyside Police's policing areas. So in teams of detectives exclusively investigating hate crimes. So Merseyside have really tried to work on the racism that is actually very apparent in this particular area. I think that is something that they can be applauded for in terms of their work for that. On the 2nd of April in 2008, the Crown Prosecution Service announced a legal scholarship in Walker's memory, and this scheme offers one place in CPS Merseyside to a trainee solicitor who wants to become a fully fledged solicitor or barrister. And it was open to any black or ethnic minority person who has secured or intends to apply for a place to study the legal practice course or bar professional training course full time. So this again was another initiative to ensure that Anthony's dreams were also being worked on. And even if he couldn't do it, then giving the opportunity to somebody else just like him was very important. And the Liverpool Echo, a newspaper, bestows an Anthony Walker Young Citizen of the Year award in his honour. And again, this just shows us how much Anthony's case has actually impacted Liverpool. So 15 years on, has much changed? I mean, Anthony was murdered in 2005, and in 2020, here we are having Black Lives Matter movements all over the world. And it's hard to say that much has changed, to be completely honest with you. In 2015, the BBC actually reported that hate crimes in Merseyside were up 13.4% on a decade ago. So when Anthony Walker was murdered, 2005, in 2015, 10 years later, hate crimes were up. The Anthony Walker Foundation's website states that hate crimes in Merseyside and nationally remain a serious threat to the community. And they have a contact form on that website, which allows those who've actually experienced hate crime in terms of like racist attacks to actually report it to the foundation, and the foundation can take it forward for them. In 2017, it saw a 15% rise on reported hate crimes on the year before. So as we can see, hate crimes The reporting of hate crimes, it's going up. It's not coming down. And in an interview with The Guardian, G. Walker said it doesn't surprise her that 15 years on, we are still seeing crimes like that of the murder of George Floyd. But she remains hopeful that films like the drama that was based on her son's life will change minds and get people to actually rethink racism by showing everything that was taken from her son, Anthony Walker. I do hope that more cases are told, like the way in which G. Walker told her son's case in this reimagined drama. Because if we actually can see the life that is being taken away, what their future could have been like, maybe, just maybe, that might have an impact on people realizing just how precious somebody's life actually is. And I again implore you to go and watch the BBC drama called Anthony if you are able to do so, because it really is a touching drama. So let me know what you think of Anthony's case down below. Have you heard of Anthony's case before? Thank you so much for listening to Anthony's story, and I really hope that his story, his life, is definitely an inspiration and a testimony to change. If you have any other cases that you would like me to cover, then please don't forget to let me know down below, and I'll be happy to do so. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more cases, and also you can share this video as well. Let's get Anthony's story out there. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I shall see you very soon in my next video. Take care. Bye.